that my house doesn't have to look like kids don't live in it. I stopped telling myself I didn't have enough time. I really just realized, like, no matter how well I parent, a kid is going to have a tantrum. That is going to directly affect our kid's childhood. Another thing, which is probably a little TMI, but I know he won't mind me sharing, is our sex life. I cannot remember the last time I just sat and chatted with you guys. I feel like ever since I started my podcast, I saved that kind of long form chit chat, get into all of the details for that. But I feel like this year has been so transformative for me and my overall happiness and well-being that I need to make this video and I need to put all of this information in one place. Without really knowing it at first, but then really realizing it and focusing on it, I have spent this year trying my best to find a way in which I can fully enjoy myself and who I am outside of motherhood, but then also within motherhood. And I feel like I found a lot of things that have really just made life so much easier, enjoyable. It has made the day-to-day mundane days just so much more joyful, and it's allowed me to pull myself out of these little slumps that I get in pretty often throughout motherhood, as it can be extremely tough and hard and kind of frustrating within this season of life. And so I wanted to share this with you guys because I feel like there's a lot of you that are in this same season of life. And even if you have friends and family that are in it too, it's hard to get to these like deep, vulnerable conversations a lot with people. And so I just wanted to share it with you. So if this is your first video of mine, hi, I'm Kyleen. I have 2 kids. I have a son who just turned 3 and I have a daughter who is a year and a half. My kids are exactly 19 months apart to the day. They were both born on the 31st. And so I had 2 under 2 for 5 months. So if you can imagine, the past couple of years have been a lot. It has been a huge transformation, and I am just very happy to say that I have finally gotten out of just like the fog of it all. And I'm actually just really excited to do it again. I feel like there was a long period of time where I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna have more kids, and I've always wanted 4. So that thought was really scary. But like I said, I've taken this last year to just kind of work on myself and feel better. And I am so excited to share with you guys what I have learned. So cheers to just enjoying life, enjoying motherhood, finding the best version of yourself. And if you guys have any tips that you feel like I missed or that you want to add, please do so, but let's get into it. So the first thing that I feel like has really changed just like my mental health throughout motherhood is for all of my type A girlies like myself. And that is to stop stressing over the mess. I have a very vivid memory of my dad telling me probably a year or 2 ago that my house doesn't have to look like kids don't live in it. And honestly, when he said that, I was a little offended, but then I kind of sat and thought about what he was probably trying to tell me, is that I need to stop stressing about having a perfectly clean and tidy home. Kids are messy, and they're going to go through and destroy your house quicker than you could snap your finger. But something that I have really realized is it is all so clean upable, and it really doesn't take that much time or energy to do so. I hate to admit it, but I definitely was a mom that was cleaning up right behind my kids the second they were done with anything. And something that I really noticed was if I was doing that while they were playing, like say they were playing with one thing and then as soon as they were done with that, I cleaned it up as they went to the next thing. I noticed it really broke their concentration with playing, and they didn't really play very well independently. One day I just decided to leave the mess. I sat there and I watched the playroom just get completely destroyed, and I waited to clean up until my kids went down for a nap, and I realized it took me like 5 minutes to clean it up. And so a lot of just like the craziness or the stress I realized was just coming from within and from me stressing about a mess, which is insane. It is honestly just not that big of a deal, and everything is so clean upable. And this also relates into feeding children, because feeding children is extremely messy. But there's lots of things that can get stains out of clothes. You can throw your kid in the sink and wipe them down really quick, and a vacuum and a mop takes legit like 5 minutes. So if you're like me, let's ditch the stress about the mess and let's enjoy our house. Let's enjoy our kids. Let's join in on the mess. Let's embrace the mess. I could go on and on about this topic, but another one is with cooking. I really have been lately embracing just letting my children help me cook. And I feel like especially my son, who is 3, he loves to make dinner with us, but I was always so hesitant because dinner already is a stressful time of day. It already feels super messy and chaotic. I didn't want to add the layer of allowing my child to make it even crazier, even messier, which makes me sad because now that I have let him do it, he loves it so much. And just a little pro tip, they eat so much better when they help make the food. So moral of the story, let's ditch the stress of the mess. Everything is so cleanupable. Okay, the next thing that has completely transformed the way that I view my day is when I stopped telling myself I didn't have enough time. When I had Rocky, it was a hard hit for me of just how different my life was. I was 25 when I had him, so I felt like I had a few solid years of living on my own and doing whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. And so when I realized that I didn't get to choose my day anymore, it was all consuming. And for the longest time, I just wanted people to understand who were in my life that didn't have kids, how hard it was. And so I was always telling myself the narrative and telling other people too that I just don't have enough time for that. I don't have enough time. I can't do that. I have not enough time. That was always words that were coming out of my mouth. And honestly, this one I think is something that I've realized more recently since doing 75 Hard. If you guys don't know what that is, it's basically like a mental health and workout program where you work out twice a day. You have to read, you have to follow a diet, you have to do X, Y, and Z. And when I started this, the first thing that my sister asked me was, do you have time for that? And I smiled. I didn't believe myself, but I said, yes, I do. And over that period of 75 days, I really realized how much time in the day we really do have if we prioritize it. And it wasn't necessarily my kids' fault that I didn't have enough time. It was me not figuring out my new life and making time for the things that were important to me. So that is something that I try not to say anymore out loud or really even in my head, because I truly believe we make time for the things that we want to make time for. And I feel like I have been able to prove that to myself in the last few months of really practicing that habit. I'm going to do a little like twofer with this one because I feel like I got on the concept of mindset, and I just want to share a few things with that because changing my mindset this year has completely changed my life. And I feel like there's so many like self-help things out there, or just people trying to tell you that like the thoughts that you have in your head are literally the actions and the life that you're going to create for yourself. And I didn't really connect that or realize that as much as I have now. I feel like a lot of times I could have bad moments and I would make those labeled as bad days. And I would just get in so many negative mindsets and just think that everything is so much worse than it was. And when I realized that, it was so sad. I was so upset with myself that I was doing that. But I've really tried to focus on a positive mindset. Finding the positive things out of each situation has really kind of dimmed the situations that I have come up with 2 toddlers. And it's made me realize that really nothing is that big of a deal and everyone is so happy and healthy. And these little things that are stressing me out or frustrating me are just honestly played out to be bigger in my head than they are in reality. So changing your mindset to see things positively and not focus on the negative is huge within motherhood. The next one is another one for my type A girlies. Clearly this is a self-reflection of how I have made my life easier, and I am very much so a type A personality. But I realized, and unfortunately this took me so long to realize, and I hope that you don't have to take this much time as well, but I realized that I do not have to constantly try to fit my life into my kids' schedules, and I can include my kids in my schedule. So if that doesn't fully make sense, basically, I was always living around my kids' schedules and doing things for them while they were awake. And I often hesitated to do things for myself or kind of take my kids along with the plans or the things that I needed to get done. I think the reason why I avoided figuring this out for so long is because I felt very selfish in doing so, in dragging my kids along in my errands and the things that I wanted to do. I felt like I wasn't tending to them or being there for them, and they were just kind of dragged along with me, which I don't know why I associated that with being so negative or selfish, but it is not. It is life. Our kids are brought into our lives and they actually do so well, and they love doing things that we're doing too. So like even at the beginning stages of just having my son, like I wouldn't do anything while he was awake. And so anytime he was awake, I was giving him my full attention. And so as he got older and the time that he was awake got bigger, I found that it was really hard to do that. And I really struggled with kind of reversing my mindset there, because to me that then felt like I wasn't giving him my entire attention. But like now I include him, like I said, in making dinner or doing the laundry or doing chores around the house, and they see it as fun. I mean, they light up when they get to press the buttons on my washer or dryer. They really just want to be included and feel important. And kids don't really understand the difference between playing and chores and tasks and all that kind of thing. And so that was something that it just really took me way too long to figure out. So if you're struggling in the same boat, it is not selfish to do things like that, and it is actually extremely beneficial to you and your household and the way that things run if you can kind of learn how to incorporate your kids into your lives instead of just focusing strictly on a schedule. And I am a schedule girl. I will die on that hill. I think kids need structure, and I think it provides a lot of just really good stability, but that structure can be broken and your kids will be okay. Even just seeing the difference between my son and my daughter, it is insane. My daughter is so flexible. Right now, she is 19 months old, I believe, and she can take one nap, she can take two naps, she can go to bed early, she can go to bed late. Like, she is just so flexible, and I truly believe that's because I have had structure in her life, but I've allowed myself to bend and flex with the way that life just ends up playing out. Okay, this next one is a hard one because it's something that I still have to work on a day-to-day basis, and that is I stopped trying to do everything possible to avoid tantrums, and I just began to embrace that they are normal and that they're gonna happen, unfortunately, on a daily basis, more than once, and that is completely normal. I remember feeling for so long like I felt like I was doing something wrong when he would have a tantrum. Like, I was trying to work through it, and if I couldn't get him to calm down fast enough, I'm like trying to figure out all these things that I've read and seen of how to just completely handle children. And honestly, I just felt like I was failing a lot. And I really just realized, like, no matter how well I parent, a kid is going to have a tantrum, and I want my kids to have tantrums. I want them to feel their emotion, and I want them to express it and to work through it. But yeah, that was another one that just took me a long time to just like flip that switch and understand that that is completely normal and it is okay, and anyone who has a kid will completely understand that. And if you're getting crazy looks in public or people judging you, they probably don't have kids themselves, or they're just mean. So tantrums are okay. They are normal. They're gonna happen, and you are a completely normal and great parent despite them being a part of your day-to-day routine. My next tip is probably one of my most like important tips for you guys. So if you take anything away from this video, take this, but you have to take care of yourself in motherhood, and you have to put yourself first. That saying of you can't pour from an empty glass is so insanely true. And when I realized this and started just putting emphasis on my health and my overall well-being, I became such a better mother, such a better wife, and just such a better and happier person in general. Fueling your body with just nutritious food that is going to give you energy is so important. Moving your body and making sure you have activity is so important. And I know it can be so hard to figure out how to include that into your life. With Rocky, I don't think I ever really found a consistent like workout routine after having him. I found out I was pregnant with my daughter Echo when Rocky was 11 months old, and so I just kind of went into the next season again not fully figuring it out. So you can imagine once I had my daughter, I was like, okay, we need to figure this out. And I started going back to the gym when she was 2 months old, and I slowly just figured out how to find time. A lot of the times then it was at 7:30 p.m. when I had put both the kids to sleep, or it changed into at like 6:30 or 7 a.m. in the morning. Honestly, for you, it's going to look so different than it will for me, but finding a time where you can consistently move your body is so transformative for your overall just happiness and well-being. Nurturing your body with foods that are actually going to provide you energy and make you feel good is so important for your overall health and well-being. And if you can focus on yourself and feeling good on the inside, you are going to feel so much better on the outside, and you are then going to be such a better wife, mother, friend, daughter, all of the things. Again, this is an area where it can feel very selfish to take time to yourself and do things for yourself, but it is not, and it is so imperative for being a person who takes care of someone else. I also just want to say in this category to start slow, really master one habit, and then once that is an easy thing that is just integrated into your daily routine, add the next one. So I really focused on getting to the gym first. I felt like that was something that made me feel like I was doing something. And so I started with like 3 days a week, and then I got to like 5 days a week. And once that became normal, then I was like, okay, I'm going to really reel in this next habit. And so I really focused on getting a lot of protein in my diet. And then once I figured out how to make sure each one of my meals had a lot of protein in it, I added reading 10 pages a day and then making sure there's enough water. Like if you try and do all of it all at once, it's going to be completely overwhelming. So start with whatever you feel like will make you feel the best, nail that down, make it a habit, and then move on from there. But I'm telling you guys, if you can figure that out and make yourself feel so much better, you will feel like a completely happier mother. And last thing I'll say about this is know your season. It really has taken me a long time to get to this point. I would say at least a year postpartum. And honestly, probably closer to that 1.5 years is where I've actually felt really, really good. So if that is not your season, if you have a newborn at home and you're waking up multiple times at night, just do your best. I strongly believe if we at least do something for ourselves that makes us just feel better, this whole experience and this whole stage of life is going to feel so much more joyful. This next tip kind of piggybacks off of that one, but I was listening to a podcast a few months ago. Kylie was on it, and I really love following her, but she said something about how she realized as she was creating her childhood for her daughter, she realized in the same moment she was creating or writing like the narrative of her motherhood journey too. And that was like, whoa to me, because if we don't create a motherhood journey that is fun and beautiful and something that we're proud of, that is going to directly affect our kids' childhood. And I know that that is probably something that is easier to feel some sort of way about, but making sure that you are loving this like season of life and loving the day-to-day or the mothering things that you do on a consistent basis is so important. And writing that narrative as beautifully as you can and just making it fun and not so like just structured and serious, and just enjoying this like season of life is so important. So just gonna leave it at that. Just remember those two go hand in hand, and it is so fun when you can view it that way. And then my last tip that I want to share that has completely transformed my motherhood journey is truly connecting with my husband. This one I feel like is so loaded, and I will do a video with my husband soon on just like our marriage now versus like at the beginning or the thick of motherhood and kind of how we have prioritized it. But in the last like I would say 3 to 6 months, my husband and I have truly bonded and grown so much closer to each other, and there's been so many things that has just made us feel so secure with each other and confident and happy. And I think that has trickled into the way that we parent and the happiness that we bring within our home tremendously. I want to throw out just a few random things so I don't just say that and then leave nothing for you guys, but I feel like a big one is the way that we have been communicating and arguing. We have really tried to hear each other and not just go straight to being defensive and kind of switching someone's complaint back onto them. I think it's very just like noble, and it's received so well when you say something to someone that is bothering you and they actually like are like, oh yeah, sorry, like I didn't realize I was doing that, or I can see how that was frustrating, instead of them just being like, well, I did that because you did this. We really have learned that that brings us absolutely nowhere, and it does not allow either of us to feel seen, heard, loved, or cared. And so when we have been arguing, we have been trying our best to listen and hear each other. Another thing, which is probably a little TMI, but I know he won't mind me sharing, is our sex life. I feel like we've really focused on trying to like spruce it up and like be very intimate with each other. I've seen a lot of the videos that Melena Ciciotti has shared about just like her relationship with her husband, and just like, I don't know, it has inspired me a ton to make sure that that part of our marriage is so good and strong, because really that is like the only thing that like differentiates you from like just being a friend to your spouse and just kind of coexisting. And as you can imagine, that is something that will kind of go up and down in this season of life of motherhood and parenthood. But we have really focused on it this year, and it has really just bonded us in a different way that I didn't really realize. And then the last thing I'll say about just like how our relationship and making sure it is good has like changed motherhood and parenthood for us is we have really focused on just spending quality time together and just enjoying each other's company. This, I feel like, is something where if we don't feel connected in this way, like we haven't had a good conversation, we haven't really talked or like felt like we've enjoyed each other, it starts to make us frustrated, and we can see that frustration kind of lead to less patience with our kids or quicker to anger with our children. And when we can just truly feel connected and happy and just like solid together, it really just makes us that stronger of parents. So I encourage you to just do something today to just strengthen your marriage. Do something without expecting anything in return. Go put some lingerie on and shock them during a lunch break. Ditch your phone tonight when you guys are spending time together, and really just feel super engaged and listen when they have something to say to you. And I promise you, if you just continue to do that, your marriage will strengthen so much. So those are my 7 things that have really transformed my life this year and my overall feelings of motherhood and my motherhood journey. I hope that you guys took something from that. I hope it was received well. It's really hard to always articulate exactly what I'm trying to say, but I hope you guys can see that I mean well, and I just really want you guys to live the happiest life. I want you to fully enjoy motherhood and your relationship with your kids and your spouse and just your environment in your home. So I hope that you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.